Hey guys, it's Jen. Welcome back to my channel and welcome back to another video. So today I'm sharing with you one of my favorite types of videos, and that is a holiday plan, shop, and cook with me. So today is Saturday, and it's actually the Saturday after Easter, but Adam's mom had knee surgery, and so we were not able to have our family dinner on the customary Easter Sunday. So this weekend, we are doing it tomorrow at our house. And I am going to be making the bulk of the food since she has been recovering. So that is totally fine because I love making food and I love cooking and I love having people over to my house. So it's perfectly fine with me. So what I'm gonna share in this video is the planning that I did for our Easter dinner. So if you're not familiar with my channel, I have a Carrie L meal planner, and it has a section for gatherings. So like I usually use it for like holidays, birthdays, stuff like that. And I always have a link in my description box to this meal planner if you're interested in getting one. And I also have a discount code. I don't get any kind of like kickback from that or anything. It's just, I love this and I want to share it with people. So my plan is to show you what I've planned for our dinner, and then I went to Walmart today and got the rest of the things that I need for it. So there will be a grocery haul, and then we will move into sort of the prep and the cooking part. So normally when I plan a holiday meal, I don't really want to cook it all on the day of. There are some things that I try to plan to make more ahead of time so that I don't have as much work to do on the day of. So let me show you what the plan is for our meal, and then I'll show you what I picked up from the store today. Okay, so here's a look at the gatherings section of the meal planner. You can see in here that I have Thanksgiving, Christmas Day, Christmas, Easter. So this is what I like to use to plan out any type of like holiday meal. So there's a section for appetizers, side dishes, main course, desserts, drinks, kids, and supplies. This also has a tear off grocery list, which I did not end up using today because I wrote the grocery list part on my normal weekly grocery list, but that's nice too. If you're just shopping for your gathering, you can definitely use that. It's super convenient. Just tear it off and take it to the grocery store. So here's what I'm planning on making. So I'm gonna do a relish tray. Adam's aunt, her name is Karen, she is gonna bring chips. Most of the time when we have like a holiday get together and we do like appetizers and stuff, we always try to bring chips for the kids, just so they have something to kind of snack on while we're waiting for dinner. So I'm gonna make a relish tray with like pickles, olives, cheese, crackers, just kind of that like little snacky stuff. I'm also going to make a broccoli salad, and you'll see that later on when I prep it. If there's any recipes that I have that I found online, I will link them down below. If not, I will type them out in the description box. Deviled eggs, we actually have some leftover hard-boiled eggs from last weekend when we dyed Easter eggs, so my plan is to make deviled eggs out of those. For side dishes, I'm going to make a corn casserole. So if you're not familiar with this, it's basically you use canned corn, cream corn, Jiffy, muffin mix, sour cream, butter. I can't remember what's all in it, but I do have the recipe, so I'll type that out. And then you bake it in the oven. It's really good, and it's really always just like a staple at our holiday dinners. I'm also going to make mashed potatoes, probably make those in the Instant Pot, and then also some gravy. I got some rolls to heat up, and then I'm also going to make green bean casserole. So just the traditional green beans, curry mushroom soup, onions on top, the crispy French onions. And then I'm going to make a ham. So this is my question to you. I'm not super experienced or proficient in cooking hams. I mean, I always just get like the spiral cut ham and bake it in the oven. But if any of you have a really, really good recipe for ham, even if it's like in the crock pot or the oven, I would appreciate if you would tell me how you do that, just for future meals. And then I am also going to make some cheese manicotti. So I've just been craving this lately, and it's something that I haven't made in a long, long time. And so I figured it would also be a nice, you know, main course to have along with the ham if someone doesn't want to eat meat. For desserts, I'm making some chocolate mint brownies. This is a recipe that I've shared before a long time ago. I think I actually shared it like around Christmas time or Thanksgiving. But this is a recipe that was passed down to me by my mom, and they taste like Andy's mints, and they are so, so good. I'm also gonna make a coconut cream pie. Adam's Aunt Karen is gonna bring some fluff. So she normally makes like a cherry fluff. It's like, has maraschino cherries and Cool Whip and marshmallows in it. For drinks, I bought some soda, some beer, and I have a question mark by lemonade. I actually ended up buying some strawberry kiwi Snapple, and so that's probably what the kids will drink. So I have egg hunt written down here, but the problem is that this weekend, I don't know if you can see outside right now, but it is super, you probably can't even tell, but it is so like dreary and rainy, and it actually got down to like the 40s today. And so I think it's really gonna be too cold and wet to have an egg hunt, which I'm kind of disappointed about, but we'll just have to deal with that. So, and then for supplies, I just put down that I needed plates and napkins. So let me show you everything that I got for the from the grocery store to prepare this meal. Okay, so here's everything I picked up from Walmart. This was everything that I needed to sort of complete all of the food that I needed to make this meal. I do have some stuff in the pantry that I'm planning on using up. So, you know, everything that goes into this you won't necessarily see here because I do have some of it already in the pantry. If I had to estimate, I would probably say this all cost around $125, $150. I have some drinks out in the garage. I'll show you too when we're done. So for the broccoli salad, I obviously needed some broccoli. So I just got 3 of the broccoli crowns. And if I didn't mention, I got all of this stuff at Walmart because that's where I got my groceries this week. So that'll be for the broccoli salad. I got a 5-pound bag of just regular Idaho potatoes. I will probably end up peeling and cooking all of these for the dinner tomorrow. I got a can of coconut milk. This is for the coconut cream pie. I've made this pie before and it turned out really well, so I'll definitely share the recipe for that. For the broccoli salad, I also needed some craisins or dried cranberries. I went ahead and bought the Walmart brand since they're cheaper. Okay, so gravy. So obviously I'm making a ham. So the ideal would be to have ham gravy, which is kind of what I'm planning on doing. But as a backup, I would like to have some packets of gravy just in case I don't end up having enough broth or the ham gravy doesn't turn out. I mean, I'm pretty decent at making gravy, and like, you know, for every time we have like a roast or a turkey or something like that, I always make like beef or turkey gravy. But I wanted to have this for the mashed potatoes just in case that didn't turn out. So I know that, you know, powdered gravy isn't exactly ideal. But honestly, you can actually make this and sort of jazz it up with your own like spices. You know, you add some like thyme in there, garlic powder, Worcestershire sauce. So you can make this actually taste really good. And so that's kind of my backup plan. I'm not sure what's going to happen yet. I have some butter in their fridge, but I wanted to get an extra pound because I do have several recipes that call for that. For the cheese manicotti, I needed 3 cups of whole milk ricotta cheese, so I went ahead and got this large container of that. I got the Frigo brand. They had Great Value brand as well, but this came in a larger container, so I just went ahead and grabbed that. This is the ham I normally get, so it's the Sam's Choice or the Walmart brand brown sugar double glazed ham. I did see they had a honey ham there as well, and I haven't tried that before, so I'm not sure about that. But this I will make in the oven. I have a large roasting pan I can put that in, so that will be our sort of main course for our meat for the meal. I grabbed some sweet pickles for the relish tray. I do not care for sweet pickles, but almost everyone else does, so my plan is to put some of these and also some dill pickles on there. I got 1 can of crushed tomatoes for the manicotti. I needed 2 cans of this, but I already have a can in the pantry, so I just grabbed 1. Also for the relish tray, I'm going to add some cheese and crackers on there, so I got some pepper jack cheese. I actually have some cheddar already in the refrigerator that I can cut up for that. For the manicotti, it called for grated mozzarella cheese, so I decided I would grate it fresh on my own. I got some heavy whipping cream for the whipped cream on top of the coconut cream pie. And then I also got some green olives. I also don't care for green olives. I actually really like black olives, which is why I got these as well. But I figured I would put both on the relish tray, so depending on what everyone likes, they can have green or black. I got some French's crispy fried onions for the green bean casserole. And then I thought also with the appetizers, I would put out some wheat thins to go along with the cheese on the relish tray. Okay, green beans. I went ahead and got 3 cans. I'll probably end up only using 2, but I'm not sure. I just got an extra one just in case. So these are just the Del Monte French cut or fresh cut green beans. So that's what usually I use for green bean casserole. I went ahead and got some of the Pillsbury pie crusts. I like to buy the deep dish ones because they have plenty of room in them. And these work great, especially if you're gonna make like a custard pie or a lemon meringue pie or something like that. You just kind of poke some holes in them with a fork, bake them in the oven, and they turn out great for pies. And I don't know, I'm just not a huge fan of making homemade pie crust. I mean, I've done it before. I just feel like this tastes really good and it's so much easier, and so I choose to get the pre-made stuff. For the chocolate mint brownies, it calls for Hersheys Syrup, so I grabbed a bottle of that. And then for the cheese manicotti, I'm actually doing it a little bit different than the recipe calls for. So the particular recipe that I'm using actually calls for Barilla no-boil lasagna noodles, and then you soak them in hot water and then kind of roll the cheese up like a burrito. I just went ahead and went with the normal manicotti noodles, so I'll have to parboil these and then probably pipe the cheese mixture in there with a Ziploc bag. I got a bag of semi-sweet chocolate chips. Those are for the brownies. And then 2 packages of the King's Hawaiian. These are the savory butter rolls. So I'll heat these up in the oven with a little bit of butter on top, and that will be rolls for the meal. And then I also grabbed a box of the Jiffy corn muffin mix. This is for the corn casserole. Some LaCroix flavored water. This is the kiwi strawberry. Some napkins, some Chinette plates. These are the large sort of platter type paper plates, and these are the kind I always like to use for gatherings because they're nice and big and sturdy. I grabbed some clear cups for drinks, and then also a big package of plastic silverware. So I'm out here in the garage. I just grabbed, these are just the other drinks that I got, and we won't use all of these tomorrow. We'll also use them obviously for just our regular drinks too at home. So I grabbed a bottled water, package of bottled water, some Diet Wild Cherry Pepsi, some beer, some Michelob Ultra, and this is the Clear American, the Walmart brand blackberry sparkling water. This is not like LaCroix, this is sweetened, so kids like that too. So that's what I grabbed for drinks. Good morning. It is Sunday at 6:40 in the morning, and I wanted to share with you what I got done yesterday to prep for the holiday meal. And that is nothing. I was so tired last night after I got all the groceries put away and ate dinner, and I just actually went to bed at like 8:30, which was awesome. So I have even more work to do today, but that's fine. I think I can get it accomplished. If needed, we may have to push back the time of eating to 1 o'clock, but that's fine. So I'm gonna try to figure out what I need to do first, and I'll take you along with me as I cook everything today. So the first thing I think I'm going to start on is this broccoli salad, and like I said, I'll link all these recipes down below, but I want to give this a chance to sit in the fridge so the broccoli can kind of soften up a little bit. I'm watching Tiffany from Simple Life, Simple Wife. If you don't watch her channel, you should. I love watching her videos. Okay, so for this you'll need sunflower seeds, red onion, bacon. For the dressing you'll need apple cider vinegar, mayo. I have some sugar in the bowl here already, and then pepper, salt, and then some chopped up fresh broccoli.
The other thing I forgot to mention are some sweetened dried cranberries or craisins, which will be going in there as well. So to get started with this, I'm going to make the dressing first in one of these stainless steel bowls. These are available on Amazon. I'll link them down below. I really like them because they have a spout and a handle on them, and they're super convenient. They also come with lids, so you can put that on and stick it in the fridge. So I'm whisking together all of the dressing ingredients first in there, and then I will add all of the salad ingredients on top of it and toss it up. I thought that the dressing was a little bit thick, so I added just a little bit of half and half to thin it out, but that's the only modification that I made. If you guys like this like sweet and tangy broccoli bacon salad, I would definitely recommend this recipe. This is the first time I've made a broccoli salad like this. Sometimes I make it with ranch dressing and cheddar cheese and sunflower seeds, but I wanted to change it up a little bit, and this salad did not disappoint. Make sure that you check out that recipe down below. You could also easily make this a keto or low carb dish if you substituted like a sugar substitute for the sugar in the dressing and left the craisins out. I think it would be just as good. So another tip that I have for this is make sure that you cut the broccoli into as small of pieces that you can, and then let this sit in the fridge for a couple hours before you eat it. Otherwise the broccoli will be too hard. Next, I'm going to chop up some red onion for the salad. I'm probably only using about 1/4 of this red onion, and I will reserve the other part of it for another use. I chopped this pretty fine into as fine of pieces that I could, just because I didn't want huge chunks of onion in the salad, and added that. If you don't like raw red onion, you could also use green onion. I think that would be really good, or shallots would be good as well. Next, I'm going to add some bacon bits. I just got those in the salad section at the grocery store, and some sunflower seeds. And here are the craisins I forgot to show you guys. Just putting those in as well. And then I'm going to toss this broccoli and all of the toppings with the dressing. Make sure that you go down to the bottom of the bowl and get it all incorporated and mixed up. Once it's mixed up, you can put it in the refrigerator. This will keep for a couple days, and like I said, make sure that you make it several hours or the night before you're going to eat it, so that the broccoli has time to soften.
Okay, so the next thing that I make is a coconut cream pie. I made this recipe before and it's really good. This one is from addapinch.com. So for the actual crust, I'm just using a Pillsbury frozen crust. I let this thaw for about 10 minutes on the counter. I'm just going to par bake it in the oven. You want to make sure that you prick this with a fork so that it doesn't like bubble up and ruin your crust. But for the custard, you need cornstarch, vanilla, sugar, coconut milk. Make sure that you get the unsweetened coconut milk and not coconut cream. And then half and half in egg yolks. And then you also need a little bit of butter, some salt, and some sweetened flaked coconut. And then also I'm going to whip up some heavy cream for the top of the pie, but I'll do that later.
Okay, so this is a cooked custard pie, which may intimidate you, but don't be intimidated. Like I said, I've made this several times and it's really good. So you want to go ahead and separate your eggs, because you're only going to need the egg yolks for the pie filling. Now, yes, I could have saved these egg whites, and I'm sure I'll get some comments for wasting food, but last time I saved egg whites, we didn't even use them, and I ended up throwing them out anyway. So I went ahead and put the egg yolks in a bowl. I'm using like a mixing bowl with a spout, because I'm going to go ahead and pour this into the saucepan to cook it. You'll also need 1.5 cups of half and half, and 1.5 cups of coconut milk. So I bought the canned coconut milk. This is the Thai Kitchen brand, I think, and you can see that it had actually separated. I wasn't actually able to shake it up in the can either. If you get it like this, it's totally fine. You just empty it out into a bowl and make sure you whisk it really well so that the solids incorporate back in with the liquids, and you can use it just as you normally would. So once that was whisked up, I measured out 1.5 cups, and then I will whisk together both of those milks along with the egg yolks. And then in a small saucepan over medium heat, you add your sugar and your cornstarch to that, and then slowly whisk in the custard mixture. So when you first start this out, you want to make sure that you're whisking it so that you get all of the lumps out, but then further in, you can switch to a wooden spoon. You'll basically cook this over medium heat until you start to see it bubble. And at that point, you'll want to stir it constantly and really keep an eye on it, because this is the point where if you don't, it could definitely burn, and you don't want to do that. Here's the toasted coconut I made for the top, by the way. So here's my wooden spoon. I'm just going to stir and make sure that there is nothing stuck to the bottom and that it's not scorching. But once it starts to thicken, you'll be able to tell it will start to feel more like pudding. And once it gets to a pudding consistency, definitely turn it off and remove it from the heat. Okay, so I moved my custard over to the counter and I'm going to whisk in a little bit of vanilla extract, a little bit of salt, and 1 tablespoon of butter until that butter is all melted. Next, you can go ahead and add the shredded coconut. Make sure that you do this with a spoon. If you try to do it with a whisk, it will get all tangled up in there. And just stir the custard with the coconut until it is all incorporated. The next thing that you do is just put this into your pie shell that you pre-baked, and then you'll go ahead and stick this in the refrigerator. So this will take about 4 hours to chill. I just placed a piece of plastic wrap over the top. Now I'm filming this later, but I went ahead and put it next to the coconut cream pie part so you guys could get a sense of how this works. But I just poured about 1.5 cups of heavy cream into a bowl. I'm using my hand mixer with the whisk attachment to whisk that up. I added about 1/4 cup of powdered sugar. I find that using powdered sugar when you make whipped cream, it just incorporates better than regular granulated sugar, and so that's just what I prefer to use. Make sure that you whisk this until it comes to stiff peaks, but don't over whip it or you'll get butter. So once that is nice and whipped up and it's sweet enough, you can just put that on top of the pie and spread it out. This is the best coconut cream pie you will ever taste, and that is coming from someone who doesn't really like coconut all that much, but this pie makes me change my mind. I'm putting just a little bit of that toasted coconut on the top. All right, so it's 9:42. I have to pick Kira up from a sleepover here in a little bit. So I'm just taking a break, obviously, but I'm pretty satisfied with what I've gotten done so far. So I still need to work on the relish tray, but I got the broccoli salad done. I got the potatoes peeled. I got the manicotti done. The ham's in the oven. Brownies are half done. Coconut cream pie is done. So yeah, I do have down that I'm going to make deviled eggs, and I'm just not sure if I'm gonna have time, but I'm gonna try. And I also need to take a shower, so we'll see how this goes. Next, I'm making chocolate mint brownies. Do you like these?
I don't know if they are.
Oh, yeah. This is an old recipe that my mom gave to me. It's actually, I have it handwritten out, so it's one of the best kinds of recipes. But for the brownie part, you need a stick of butter softened, a cup of sugar.
Can I have one when you're done?
When we're done, yep. Eggs. I usually put a little bit of vanilla. The recipe calls for 1 can of Hersheys Syrup. I can't find cans of Hersheys Syrup anymore, but I think a can is around 2 cups. So I just buy the regular container and measure out 2 cups. And then you also need flour. That's the brownie part. And then for the mint frosting, you need powdered sugar, butter, milk, and peppermint extract, but you don't do that till later. And then on the top you do a layer of chocolate chips, which kind of like hardens on the top. So first I'm going to bake the brownies and cool those, and then I can make the frosting. Okay, so this is a homemade brownie recipe. It does not use a brownie mix, and for the chocolate part of it, it actually uses Hersheys syrup, which is kind of unique. So in a bowl, I am beating up some butter and sugar until that is creamed together. A lot of times I use my KitchenAid stand mixer, but I didn't really feel like dragging it out of the appliance garage today, so I'm just using my hand mixer, which works just fine. Once the butter and sugar is creamed together, you can add 4 eggs. Just add them 2 at a time until they are incorporated. Next, you'll add your chocolate sauce. Now, the original recipe calls for a can of Hersheys syrup. It has been so long since I have been able to find a can of Hersheys syrup in the grocery store. All I can find is the plastic bottles where I live. So I just go ahead and measure out 2 cups because I am pretty sure that that is exactly the amount that's included in the cans. So once that's in there, go ahead and mix it together until everything is combined, and that completes your brownie layer after you add the flour. So once the flour is added,
Just mix that up until it is thoroughly combined. I use a 9x13 glass dish that I spray with cooking spray, and then I line it with parchment paper. Anytime I make brownies or bars, I always line my pan with parchment paper just because it is so much easier to then lift it out of the pan when you're done and cut them up. So I'm going to go ahead and get that in the pan, and I will bake it at 350 degrees for 20 to 30 minutes. I think I ended up baking mine closer to 30 minutes, but just check on them until they are done and a toothpick inserted in the middle comes out clean.
Okay, so the brownies are done. I just took them out of the oven. I did have to cook them for a little bit longer, like maybe about 8 minutes longer than the recipe said, but these have to cool completely before you put the frosting on them, because if you put the frosting on now, obviously, it's all gonna melt and be a mess. So I'm gonna let these cool a little bit, and then I might go stick them out either in the fridge in the garage or just in the garage because it's like 35 degrees outside right now. All right, so it's 10:45. I just went out in the garage and put some more soda in the fridge. I don't know if it's gonna have time to get cold, but it's better than nothing. If not, we have ice. And I took the brownie layer out of the fridge, so that's cooled. So I'm gonna go ahead and make the peppermint frosting to go on top of that, and then the layer of chocolate. The only other thing I really have to do is warm up the rolls, make the corn casserole, which is super quick, and then whip the cream for the coconut pie. So we're in the home stretch. I'm gonna take the ham out of the oven at 11 o'clock so that I can put the rest of the stuff that needs to be baked in, and then the ham can just sit on the back of the stove and keep warm. Okay, so Adam made the ham. We just used orange juice mixed with the glazed packet instead of water. And these roasting pans are super useful for stuff like this. I got these handed down to me from my grandma, but they do have these on Amazon, so I'll link it down below. But this is gonna get baked at 325 for about 2 hours. All right, so I'm gonna get started on the manicotti. So this is a new recipe. I've made cheese manicotti in the past a long time ago, but I'm gonna go ahead and try this recipe. It's from tastebetterfromscratch.com. So for the tomato sauce, you need 2 cans of crushed tomatoes, some minced garlic, some crushed red pepper flake, parsley, dried basil, and some olive oil. I'll probably add a little bit of sugar too, because I always add a little bit of sugar to my tomato sauce just to kind of cut the acidity a little bit. And then I have the manicotti noodles, which I have a pot of salted water boiling for over here.
All right, so this recipe is a real winner, and I can say this because I've already eaten it and it was delicious. But this is the first time in a while I've made homemade marinara from crushed tomatoes, and it was so good. I'm definitely going to do this more often. I just never think to do it. It's just one of those things that I always like buy the jarred sauce, but honestly, this was so easy that I will definitely be doing this again soon. So in the bottom of my Dutch oven, and this is a Lodge Dutch oven, I really love it. You guys can get them on Amazon. I got this one for Christmas, but I'll link it down below if you're interested. I put some olive oil. I chopped up about 5 cloves of garlic, and I'm also sprinkling in some red pepper flakes. To the boiling water, I'm adding the manicotti noodles. Now I'm only going to cook these about halfway. I don't want to cook them until they're super soft because they'll finish cooking in the oven. So you can saute that garlic in the olive oil until it is nice and golden. Make sure you don't burn it. Go ahead and add the 2 cans of crushed tomatoes. These are 28-ounce cans. I added some salt, some dried basil, some dried parsley, and about a tablespoon of sugar. The original recipe did not call for sugar, but I would definitely recommend putting it in there. Anytime I make a tomato-based sauce, I always just add a little bit of sugar because I just think it cuts down on the acidity of the tomatoes and just makes the tomatoes taste even sweeter. So that would be my recommendation if you're going to do anything to modify this particular recipe.
My noodles are done. Anytime I make like a baked pasta, I don't cook the noodles all the way. I leave them like half cooked because this is going to bake longer in the oven, obviously. So I just put these out on a sheet tray that had foil and grease on it, or I just sprayed it with, you know, cooking spray, so they make sure they don't stick together and they can cool so I can handle them. The tomato sauce is done. I tasted it. It tastes really good. I would definitely recommend adding the sugar, otherwise I just think it's too acidic. And then for the filling, I'm going to use whole milk ricotta, some Parmesan cheese. The recipe calls for 2 eggs, but I'm only going to use 1 because I don't want it to be super runny. Salt, pepper, some dried parsley, and some dried basil.
So for the filling, I will go ahead and put my ricotta cheese into the bowl. I'm going to stir that up with 1 egg, and actually you'll see at the end I added another egg because what I didn't take into account was that this needed to be loose enough to be able to pipe it into the manicotti shells, so I definitely needed that extra egg. I added Parmesan cheese and a little bit of mozzarella cheese, salt, pepper, basil, and parsley. If I would have had it to do over, I may have actually used the grated Parmesan, like the green cheese in a can, which I know, but it's actually a lot saltier, and I do think the filling needed a little bit more salt, although it was still delicious, and I would definitely make this recipe again while adding more salt. So you can see there I added the extra egg, and once that is all mixed together, I will put it into a Ziploc bag and cut the corner off and pipe this as carefully as I can into the manicotti shells. All right, so this is kind of a messy job, but somebody has to do it. So you can see there that I'm using the Ziploc bag as a piping bag and piping in part of the cheese into one side of the tube of pasta and then flipping it around and piping it in the other side. You don't want to overfill these because they will kind of leak out on the edges and you'll lose all of that cheese mixture. Also keep in mind that these will expand a little bit more when they bake in the oven because they'll be soaking up the rest of that sauce. So as for the cheese, I had enough for all but 2 of the manicotti shells. So for these 2, I actually just put them in a separate glass baking dish because I didn't have enough room in the other one. And this will be like a great meal prep for Adam and I to take to work during the upcoming work week. So after those are all arranged, you can take the rest of your sauce and pour it over. Make sure that they are all covered in sauce. And I had about I don't know, a cup and a half extra of sauce, which I just put in a jar and put in the fridge. You can cover these with foil and bake them in the oven. About 10 minutes before they're done, you can take the foil off and sprinkle extra cheese on top. Okay, so I'm making mashed potatoes, but I'm going to make them in my Instant Pot. So I'm just quartering most of these large potatoes that I've peeled and rinsed. When you make potatoes in the Instant Pot, you don't have to cut them up super small. These will actually cook under high pressure in about 10 minutes, and they will be perfectly done and creamy, and you'll be able to whip them up for beautiful mashed potatoes. All right, next thing I'm going to get started on is the green bean casserole. So this is just not fancy. This is the, traditional cream of mushroom soup and French's onions green bean casserole. So in a measuring cup, I'm mixing 3/4 of a cup of milk, a can of cream of mushroom soup, some pepper, and a little bit of soy sauce. I just whisk that up until it all comes together. And then I have 3 cans of green beans that I have drained. I'm going to put those in my pan and pour some onions over the top. Make sure you reserve some onions for the top of the casserole and then pour the cream of mushroom mixture over that. You can just mix this up and bake it in the oven at 350 until it is hot and bubbly, and then you can put the rest of the onions on top to crisp up. I also didn't mention this, but I'm using foil trays today for easier cleanup.
All right, so for the mint frosting for these brownies, I have a stick of butter in here softened, some peppermint extract, some green food coloring. You could use a different color, I guess. You could use red if you wanted. I don't know, I always use green because that's what my mom used, and it's supposed to look like an Andes mint. Just a couple tablespoons of milk to thin out the frosting if you need it, and then 2 cups of powdered sugar. So I'm just going to get this mixed up with my hand mixer and spread it on the brownies.
So for the food coloring, you can start out with maybe about 5 drops and then put more in if you need it. I had to add a little bit more milk than the recipe called for also. You basically want this frosting to be like a spreadable consistency, but you don't want it to be too runny or it will, be hard to spread on the brownies. And actually, I did not think this had enough peppermint extract after I tasted it, so I had to have more because I definitely wanted these to have a mint flavor. Connor's licking one of the beaters as we speak. So I'm using a little offset spatula to spread that layer on the brownies. If you don't have a little offset spatula, you should definitely get one. It's something that I don't use super often, but especially when doing something like this, it's definitely kind of an essential tool.
All right, so in this bowl, I have a cup of chocolate chips and 6 tablespoons of butter. I'm just gonna heat this up in the microwave until it gets hot, and then I'm gonna stir it together, melt it. This is kind of like a ganache that goes on top of the brownies.
So what I normally do is heat this up at 30-second intervals until it is melty enough to be able to stir everything together. It does take a little bit of stirring to get the butter incorporated with the chocolate, but once that's done, go ahead and pour it on top of the frosting. Spread this really carefully, otherwise you will make a mess with the frosting underneath. And then just pop this in the fridge until it hardens up.
Next, I'm gonna make this corn casserole. You don't like it? They have there's different variations of this, but this is how I make it. So you need a can of creamed corn and a can of regular corn, and you don't drain that. Then a box of corn muffin mix. I have some extra corn here in the fridge that I'm going to use just to get it used up. No, they're not ready yet. A cup of sour cream, some minced onion. You can use like regular fresh minced onion, but I usually don't. I usually use this or onion powder, and then a stick of butter melted.
I also forgot to mention that you'll need 2 eggs for this recipe. So super simple. This is a delicious recipe. We always have it for holidays, and it tastes like a cross between corn pudding and cornbread. I'm not really a fan of like creamed corn or corn pudding, but this is actually delicious, and it's like a little bit firmer. So there's no secret to this. Basically, you take all of the liquid ingredients and mix them up in a big bowl, add the corn and the Jiffy mix, and that's it. You can pop it into a baking dish, bake it in the oven. Usually I have to bake it for about an hour at 350 just to make sure that it's all cooked in the middle, but this could not be easier, and it's something that I actually should make on a normal basis. For some reason I only think to make it at holidays, but it's really good anytime for a quick side during the week as well.
So I'm going to make the mashed potatoes in the Instant Pot. I like to do this because the Instant Pot has a keep warm function, so they'll stay like nice and hot, and I don't have to worry about doing it right before we eat. So I just have the trivet in there with a cup of water in the bottom, and I have an 8-quart Instant Pot, which is what I would recommend getting. I feel like the 6-quart one is a little small. So I have 5 pounds of potatoes peeled and cut up. I cut them in like kind of large chunks, and it'll only take 10 minutes to cook these in there under high pressure.
Okay, so this doesn't take long at all, but I need to get the rolls heated up. So normally I would buy the Rhodes frozen dinner rolls and let them rise and cook those, but I knew that I was cooking so many things today, and so there was kind of a trade-off for me. I went ahead and bought the Hawaiian rolls and just warmed them up in the oven with some butter, and they were really delicious. So I'm just breaking those apart just because it's easier for serving and putting them in one of the disposable baking pans. I melted a couple tablespoons of butter in the microwave. I'll just brush that over the tops of the rolls and cover this with foil. And then you really only need to heat it for about 10 to 15 minutes in the oven. If you don't cover it, they might get a little bit too crispy.
All right, so this green bean casserole is almost heated through, so I just took it out and topped it with the rest of the onions. The corn casserole is still in the oven. I turned it up a little bit because I didn't think it was cooking quite fast enough. Here's the cheese manicotti. I am going to sprinkle it with some more mozzarella cheese and put it back in the oven and let that melt. So I've never made ham gravy before, but I'm going to try it. So I have in here a little bit of butter and flour that I'm going to cook together, and then I will put in some of the broth from the ham. So we'll see how it turns out. If it doesn't turn out good, I have chicken gravy as backup.
So if you've never made gravy before, it's actually really easy. You only need butter and flour and broth and some type of seasonings. So I cooked the butter and the flour together until that raw taste is out of the flour, and then I'm just whisking in maybe about 3 cups of the ham broth, and then I seasoned it with pepper and some thyme.
All right, so this gravy turned out okay. I think it's a little bit sweet just because of the glaze on the ham. But I added a little bit of Dijon mustard to it, just so that would cut the sweetness. And then I added a little bit of black pepper too. It definitely does not need any salt because the ham is super salty, but we're gonna try this. Okay, the potatoes are done. I vented the Instant Pot, so now I can just open it and make sure that they are tender enough to mash, which they are. So then I don't actually mash them. I use my hand mixer just to mix them up right in there. And I have some milk, cream, butter, and then I'll put salt and pepper. All right, so we got everything done. We got mashed potatoes. Are the mashed potatoes good? Gravy, rolls, butter, green bean casserole, ham, cheese manicotti, corn, chips, dip. Eli's got chicken nuggets.
What is this? What is this?
That's called cheese manicotti.
Okay, Connor got into the video too.
Do you like it? I think it's delicious.
Well, I like these nuggets.
Good.
What time is it? You should do an interview about chicken nuggets. It's 12:40.
All right, we got cheese, olives. These are homemade pickled vegetables. Anyone get some of these?
Yummy cheese.
Cheese, wheat thins, pink fluff salad. Yum. All right, so we're way past done eating now, but here's how the coconut cream pie turned out. It's a really good recipe. I've made it several times now. And then here's how the chocolate mint brownies turn out. I have them in a bag, but you can kind of see how there's a layer of the frosting and the brownie and then the ganache on top. So you do want to make sure you keep these in the refrigerator, otherwise that chocolate will get soft and start to melt. All right, so it's about 6 p.m. Connor and I are just relaxing. Everyone has gone home. So what was your favorite part about the meal today? Brownies?
Yeah, brownies, but the chocolate chips were squishy and hard.
Oh, yeah, well, you got to put it in the refrigerator for a little bit. Did you like the manicotti, the pasta?
Yeah, that was good.
Yeah, and the ham? Did you like the ham?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't really eat much because I'm full.
Oh. Okay, well, thank you so much for
I'm
watching.
in kindergarten.
Thank you so much for watching today's video. I always like to film these because I like to share like our traditions and holiday recipes, and I love watching other people's, holiday traditions and recipes too. So thanks again for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye.
Boy.